Hey everybody, how is it going? It is the Conservative Christian here, coming back at you guys with another video. So, as you guys already know by now, I kind of fell behind on a lot of videos that I wanted to do before the election, the midterms came out. Oh geez. But obviously that didn't happen. But that's okay, because I'm sure that I will end up talking about those videos in the upcoming future, the near upcoming future, because these are going to be topics that are probably still going to be talked about. I talked about the caravan, which then led me to talk about, immigration or legal immigration, and then there was also some stuff with the 14th Amendment going on with that too, with Trump and his executive order. I'll get to all those things, but I wanted to kind of just for this video, because the elections, by the time I'm recording this video, the elections were yesterday, the midterms were yesterday. So I wanted to kind of talk about that first, because in the priority scheme of stuff, this is, I think, something that I believe is the most important over everything else. Regardless of who you voted for, I hope that we can all vote. Well, at the time, we can still vote. We can still do this even without a poll, without a ballot cast. This is something we can still do. I still hope that we can all vote every day to get along, to not demonize the other side, to not dehumanize the other side, to not misrepresent the other side. Now, obviously, there are certain times when things that people say about the other person is actually true, and if that's the case, that's not really demonizing. For example, if I say, I think what the KKK is doing in regards to how they treat black people is an okay thing to do. If I say something like that, then sure, there's more evidence to suggest that I probably am a little bit racist. And so if you want to say, wow, that sounds a little bit racist, David, then you're justified in saying that. But what I'm talking about is just the petty, knee-jerk, childish behavior that we see mostly on the left when it comes to arguments. And whenever they don't have an argument, instead of being, a grown-up, an adult, and saying, I haven't really thought of this position, I don't really have an answer. No, what does it become? It becomes insults. It becomes character attacks. Things that have nothing to do with the actual conversation that is being talked about. So, to give the same example from what I'm talking about now, so now it's like if someone says, I believe that systemic racism is a thing, and I say, I agree that racism still exists, but I don't think that it's systemic. Then someone says, wow, what are you, a racist? That's what I'm talking about. Because I have already stated that I am not a racist. I have stated that I agree that racism still exists and that I don't agree with it. And most of the time I say, this is why I don't agree with this statement, and it's because of the statistics. The statistics show that, yes, black people are disproportionately represented in crime charts, but when I look at the majority of the videos that people like CNN show and all this stuff, as someone who was a former cop, I'm pretty sure that the cops were justified in their actions, and that the real blame should actually be on the people who decided to be committing crime. But yet you want to say that I'm racist just because I don't agree that because the statistics show that black people are misrepresented and that there is no evidence to support that it's because of racism, then that makes me a racist. That's what I'm talking about. And look, I agree that, both sides could be a little bit more interrogative, in the sense that, okay, if someone says something that there's pretty good evidence that they are something, I would still encourage us to still continue asking these people what they mean by that, to make sure that what they are saying is what we perceive it to be. Because most of the time, people are misrepresented because the other person has already dictated what that person is thinking or what their beliefs are. And that's wrong. I think that is, again, that's misrepresenting your opponent, and I honestly think that cowards do that. Cowards are the ones who look to take low blows at other people because they don't have enough confidence in their own mental fortitude to be able to engage in a debate that is based on logic and facts, that they have to stoop to that level. So I hope that we can vote moving forward from this election cycle, again, regardless of who you voted for, that we can cut that out. Right now, this point does tie into something that both sides aren't good at doing, and I think that herein lies what the problem really is, and it's that we don't listen. Okay, and no, to clarify, what I mean by listen is not that you agree with the other person. I'm not saying that, well, if you don't agree with me, then you're obviously not listening. That's no. When I say listen to each other, I mean ask questions. I mean maybe sympathize a little bit. I mean be honest about what you know and what you don't know. I mean, even, maybe, you might be right about that. Okay, because I've said that. I said that plenty of times. I said, look, I think the evidence is overwhelming in favor of my belief, but I could still be wrong. Because again, I don't believe that just because a majority of people believe in something, that makes it more or less true. Okay, for the longest time, a lot of people in the world believe that the Earth was flat. Does that mean that because, democratically, not democratically, but in democracy, does that mean that because more people voted that something was this way, that made it true? No, that's not how facts work. That's not how truth works. Truth doesn't become any more or less true regardless of how many people believe in it. So of course, look, I always give the benefit of the doubt to some degree. For example, I don't believe systemic racism is an issue. I don't think that it is a thing that exists. And the reason why I believe that is because we have context as to what that looked like in the past. We have statistics, we have evidence, we have facts. We have all of these things that are available to us for us to analyze all of this data and come to the logical conclusion that there's more evidence to support the fact that there isn't than there is. Okay, and no, I'm not saying you're an illogical person if you don't come to the same conclusion that I do, because I think that you can still apply logic. Again, I've said this before. If you start from a faulty premise, you can justify your way into anything, and most people do that logically. So I'm not saying anyone's stupid or illogical just because they come to a different conclusion, but I also don't think that a lot of people I think the vast majority of people who disagree with me don't come to the conclusions that they come to logically, because there is also a thing called circular reasoning, and that's a logical fallacy, and that is something that I see the left do a lot. I'm just saying that listening does not mean that I expect you to agree with me, and I wouldn't expect the same thing of you either, because I'm not a hypocrite. Now, to give an example of what I mean by this, there are two liberals specifically. Well, I think one of them, he's actually becoming more center, but at the time he was liberal. So my point, this is the reason why I liked him in the first place, even though he's moving more towards the middle. But I like a YouTuber named Chris Reagan. He is a liberal, but I do like his videos because I think that he's funny. And even though he doesn't agree with Christianity, he doesn't like religion. And he's more liberal. I like his stuff because his stuff is well put together. It's funny, and I don't know. I don't take the stuff that he says personally. I think Chris Reagan is a genuine person, and that's just kind of what I'm getting from him. Now the other person is Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is someone who initially was on the left. Well, not the left. He was more of a liberal, and when I found him, he was more liberal, and I remember watching him talk with Ben Shapiro. He even had Chris Reagan on his show, but he talks to a lot of people. Now, one thing, if you guys know who Dave Rubin is, you'll know it's about him. But if you don't know Dave Rubin, I highly encourage you to watch his stuff, because he's pretty much still the same person that he is today that he was before he started moving towards the center. But Dave Rubin is someone who I consider to be a good listener, because whenever he has people come on his show, he makes them feel like they are the center of attention, that they are being listened to. Because even if he disagrees with something that this person is talking about, he still tries to entertain their trail of thought. And he just tries to give it the benefit of the doubt, from what I can tell. He may not always agree with it, But if he disagrees, he does so very respectfully, and I like Dave Rubin because of that. And yeah, he's also gay, right? Obviously, you guys know me. I'm Christian. I don't support homosexuality, but I think that Dave Rubin is a decent human being. I think that Dave Rubin is someone that people on the left, people who are liberals, should look up to, because he is an example of how I think that we'd best benefit in the world when it comes to conversations with each other. So, most people end up parting ways, and then, they give their side, and then they're like, okay, cool, well, I disagree, but I understand where you're coming from better now, and we move on, right? Like, that's just how it goes. But, and to be fair, on the right side, okay, so this is how the right and the left work. This is where both sides need to improve on. So, on the left side, the left is more about emotions, as I've already talked about. So they have a lot more knee-jerk reactions to disagreements. They make more emotional arguments and all that stuff. And instead of taking the facts into consideration, and the right does the complete opposite. They focus too much on facts, and they don't. And look, I'm not saying that you have to give in to someone's feelings, and again, I'm not saying you have to agree with them, because I'm not saying you have to agree with them when you're being sympathetic. I'm saying that sympathy goes a long way. I'm saying that being reasonable about things and looking at the facts go a long way. And this is the bridge between the two sides. The left is more about emotion, the right is more about facts. So obviously, when it comes to debates, when it comes to disagreements, the left is the first to throw insults. The majority of the time, they're more likely to result to physical violence, whereas the right is more likely to be condescending and rude, and just throw facts in people's face. There is guilt on both sides. Okay, I'm not pretending for a second that that Republicans or the right is all righteous and all holy, and the left is just a bunch of evil, people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's fault on both sides, and that until both sides can work on their faults, that this thing that I talked about called listening isn't going to happen. And look, you might say, well, how is us listening to each other gonna help better bridge the divide? I mean, people are still gonna believe what they believe, yeah, but you won't see stupid stuff like with Brett Kavanaugh, where people just accuse someone on an allegation. You won't see people like these idiots, these mobs that are burning down cities, or that are standing in front of the Supreme Court Justice building saying shut it down. You won't see this stuff anymore, because I want to see the stuff that's scaring people. And honestly, this is the stuff that Democrats, I hope you're listening, this is the kind of stuff that's actually pushing people on your side to our side. Why do you think Lindsey Graham said what he said at Brett Kavanaugh's hearing? Lindsey Ford was fed up with you guys. I should say the left. Lindsey Ford was fed up with the left. He was sick of seeing the slander that was going on. And in Brett Kavanaugh's hearing, again, he's like, dude, you have nothing to apologize for. I am ashamed of you, Democrats. I am so outraged that this is what you have become, that even I have to stand here, or sit here, and call you guys out on this. So, it will help us just be human beings at the end of the day. And that's all that should really matter, because I don't like going into conversations and having someone, act a fool, and then I have to up the heat a little bit, because I'm not going to let this person walk all over me. Okay? Again, like, is it Christian of me to engage in the way that I engage with certain people on social media? Maybe not, but it is a fight. It is an ideological fight. And in an ideological fight, I'd rather have an ideological fight where I get nasty than have a physical fight where I get nasty. So, it's that Socrates, quote, when the argument is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser. And this is something that I encounter more often than not when I try to talk with people online. And it's just nothing but, people just, when I bring up a point that I don't feel has been properly addressed, they just say, oh, well, you obviously need to, have your brain checked, or you're racist, or this, that, or the other. And I'm like, no. If you want to play ranking, if you want to act like a child, I'll show you that I can act like a child too, and that I can act like more of a child than you can. So you can either play this elementary playground ranking game, or you can come back to being an adult and we can continue having our conversation. It's up to you. I always leave the choice up to them, because I don't draw first blood. So I would much more rather like to see people having conversations with me and addressing my points to figure out the answers to the problems that we have going on, because that's how you deal with problems, is you address them and you talk about them. That way you can fix them. Then I would having people just act like a child. And again, that comes back to what I said. It comes down to listening. And again, I think anyone out there has a lot more respect for someone who is willing to be like, I've never thought of that before. I don't know. Like, that's a good point that you brought up. Let me look into that and I'll get back to you. Or if it's just a stranger on the internet, it's like, I actually don't have an answer for this. And like, as much as I'd like to continue this conversation, I have a life. And so I'm probably not going to get back to you, but you left me with something to think about, right? Like, I would much rather see that. And I think people on either side of the equation would rather see that than this bickering argument style debate that we see all the time. But this is something that I do have statistics to back up. The majority of the time, it is the left who starts these fights. The right does it sometimes too. Okay, I'm not going to say that they're completely innocent in this, but on a grand scale of things, it is the left who does act this way more often than the right. So this is the thing, right? I know the right is trying to find common ground. The right is trying to unite the United States. But at every turn, there's always a new Democratic politician who just continues to divide us, and you guys fall for it every single time. Okay, none of the people on my side of the equation, obviously to some degree, care about what you think about. We don't care what your beliefs are. We don't care if you disagree with us. Obviously, if you're trying to take away our guns, we care about that. If you're trying to take away our freedom of speech, anything that's constitutional, yeah, we probably have an issue with that. But just your basic beliefs, if you think that systemic racism is an issue, if you think that the gender pay gap is a real thing, we don't care if you believe in those things. But on a grand scale, it is the left who refuses to try and find common ground, who refuses to engage in conversations to fix the problems. You've seen this most recently when it comes to, Donald Trump and enforcing the Democratic policies when it comes to the children being separated from the border. That's not only a safety issue to ensure that there's no child trafficking going on, but it's also just the law. You can't be mad that a president enforces the law that the past 3 or 4 presidents never enforced. They were supposed to be enforced in the first place. But now you care about it when Trump does it. You didn't care about kids being separated at the border. You were just finding another excuse to attack Donald Trump's character. That's all it was. Because we offered multiple times to your guys' party to look, hey, let's sit together and figure this out. No, we just want to continue bashing Trump. We don't care. That's what happened. I'm not slandering you guys. I'm not misrepresenting your party. That is what happened. So, again, like I said, I'm going to still be truthful about things. If I have evidence to support something that I'm accusing your side of, then I'm not going to just make accusations like this, right? I'm not just making this stuff up. Like, I'm referencing specific things that have happened to point this out. That you saw the same thing with the Parkland shooting. Oh, we need more gun control. Okay, what? We have a gazillion gun laws up the wazoo. What else could you possibly think of? Give me answers. If you have something that you think will prevent these shootings, let's hear it. No, we just want to attack the NRA and Mark Rubio. We don't care. Really? Anyways, you guys get where I'm coming from on this. So starting now, I hope, let's keep pressing on through the rest of this year and the next 2 years with President Trump, listening to people. This is one of the biggest things that people, including myself, fall into on a daily, which is that they assume that because you support the president or you don't support the president, that you must believe X, Y, or Z, the stereotype of what some people, the majority of people might believe in. That's something that needs to stop. Okay, I've had this happen, and honestly, I kind of think that it's funny, and I use it to my advantage. When I'm talking about online with someone about something in regards to Donald Trump, I don't state whether I voted for Donald Trump, because as you guys know, I didn't, but I think that it's kind of amusing to see that people will automatically assume that I voted for Trump just because I support him on some of his policies and that I defend him on some things, not everything. But I think it's really funny that people will, and then this one person even went even farther than that. They went like, oh, what do you support, Alex Jones? No, I don't. Why would you draw that conclusion? Why would you assume that? Because I'm standing up for freedom of speech? Because I'm standing up for, me not believing that just because someone, is a little bit more extreme but not violent in the way that he talks, that I don't think that his channel should be removed. Just because I'm defending, the Constitution, you think that I support this person? No, I support the Constitution, not Alex Jones. There's a big difference. This is what I'm talking about. Stop it. Get some help. That's what I'm talking about. That needs to stop. Just because you defend someone, just because you support someone, that doesn't mean that you support the person as a whole. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person. That doesn't mean that someone else has the right to draw conclusions about you that they don't know. Most of the time, these people don't know who you are. Most of the time, we don't know who they are. I'm trying to be fair here. So you and I, conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, whoever, this needs to stop now. Stop misrepresenting your opponents. Stop assuming the worst in your opponents. Ask questions. Listen. It's not hard. Okay, it is hard. But the concept is very simple, but it is always hard to do because of human nature. Okay, we want to be right. We want the other person to get our point of view because obviously we think that our point of view is right. That in and of itself is not intrinsically evil. It's not intrinsically bad. That we both have perspectives, we both care about America, and that we both think that our views and perspectives are important, and that we think that they will work. But someone else disagreeing with you thinks exactly the same way that you do. It's not hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes when it comes to politics. However you feel about someone disagreeing with your point of view or not supporting your point of view is exactly the same way that the other person feels in regards to you. So if we can remember that, if we can take that to heart, I think that'll help us better look and listen to be like, okay, you know what? We both have the same goal in mind, but we have different approaches towards it. Now, I know that this person, thinks that he's right, and I think that I'm right. So what can we do from here? And hopefully the answer is going to be that, you know what? I think listening to each other to make sure that we understand each other is probably the best place to start. That's about all I got for you guys. That's what I'm voting for from here on out. So we can do it, guys. I know we can do it. Don't let the media and politicians use their hyperbolic rhetoric to divide us. They're just doing that to get votes. Anyways, I think that's about all I got today. So until next time, guys, this is the Conservative Christian signing out.